Hi, everyone, and welcome to Autism and Adulthood, where we navigate life beyond the school bus together. I'm your host, Sharon Williams. I want to start out by letting you know I started this podcast because of my 24-year-old son, Kyle, who is autistic. But this show is for every family navigating life with an adult child who has special needs, whether it's autism, Down syndrome, developmental delays, or other disabilities. We're here to share real stories, helpful resources, and encouragement for the journey ahead. Today, I'm so excited to welcome our very first guest, Dr. Danita Jones, who brings both professional insight and personal experience as a caregiver to her special needs sister. We're going to talk about caregiving, rural access to services, and what life looks like for families beyond the classroom years. Dr. Danita Jones, thank you so much for being here. Let's dive in. Okay, Dr. Jones, can you just tell us a little about your sister and what makes her special?
Ah, yes, Sharon, I can. Sandra is very special because number one, she's very smart in her own way. And, I used to tell my mom all the time, if she knows everybody's business. She can tell you everything that's on TV and who they are and what time it come on and all that. And she's special in her own way, very caring and compassionate and always gonna pray for people. And she say, I'm gonna say my prayer for you. So she has such a very compassionate heart and very helpful, but also very, very knowledgeable in her own way.
That's awesome. And that is so much like a lot of our special needs individuals. They're so special and they have their own gifts. And they actually, the heart of a lot of these special needs individuals, like Sandra, is so humble and so giving and caring as well. So that is really good to hear. I wanted to know, what has your journey been like since, the last few years that you've been, caregiving for her? What has it been like? When I ask, what has it been like, I mean, like, just in the everyday. What is her day like and your day like as far as caregiving for her?
Well, the caregiving for Sandra has been difficult for me. Number one, because she had been with my mom, just her and my mom for all those years that Sandra did everything and anything that she wanted to do with no structure. So coming into my home with me, I set boundaries and structure. And because she didn't get some of the activities and schooling that she should have got, which I think could have made a great difference in her life, it's been like I have to go back through some of the things that she should have learned at an early age. And because those services was not there for her, it's like training her. But I will say that it takes a long time. You have to be repetitious with it, that she have come a long ways.
And that's awesome that she's come a long way. Going back to your mother and Sandra, because I know your mother was her primary caregiver for many years, and I know that your mother lived in a rural community, and when you say the services that she should have gotten or didn't receive, I should say, do you think those services were not offered in the rural communities? Because I know often a lot of times the rural communities are left out from than an individual that lives in a larger city where there's more access to support for special needs individuals.
Well, yes, it was. They do have special need training, but it's
Mhm,
not on the same level that it is in the larger cities. A
mhm.
lot of resources and opportunity is not in the rural communities. Even now I look at it and some of the people that's down there running it and all that, they believe that they doing a great service, which really they doing a great disservice because there's
Mm.
so much opportunity out there for people with disability as well as people that have a lot of challenges that they know that they can get help, but they don't know where the help is. So it's
Mhm.
limited resources, it's limited programming, it's limited knowledge, because it's not pursued. And most people don't even know that they need to pursue it. They think that when their children have disability at an early age, when they are diagnosed, what I have experienced in watching, not just my mom, but other people that, was in the area, the best thing that they can do is just make sure they're comfortable. So
Mm.
they don't know that it's opportunities out there for their loved ones. So they don't even pursue it. Then you have programs that they don't even tell them what is out there for them, and
Wow.
they just settle, and that really disturbs me.
Yeah, I'm sure. Um, and just thinking about what you said, it's really something that needs to be done about that, being that these individuals are important as well. Not it shouldn't matter where you live, whether it's rural, a rural community or a larger city. So those are things that myself, I really want to help in getting the word out that the rural communities a lot of times are not getting the same services as someone in a larger city. How do you think the distance and lack of, providers, do you think that affected her medical or developmental care at all?
Oh, yes, yes. When you don't have the providers that really has a heart for the particular area that they're working in to pursue it and advocate for it, then you have a distance in getting the services or even the just the physical and mental help that you need. I look at that when I was home. I left home when I was very young, but when I was home, and I remember when they told my mom that my sister could not operate in the traditional school system, that she had to be in a special classes and everything. They did not go into detail to why. They didn't go into details of what else can be offered in the special class other than they just going in and being in there all day. It's more like a daycare setting more than it was educational classes. And I remember my mom was very hurt because in her mind, she didn't believe nothing was wrong with her child to that point. But if
Right.
they had had providers that could explain the different steps that is needed and the different programs and the different resources, it would have made a great difference.
Absolutely. And believe it or not, I can relate to where your mom was. I remember when my son Kyle was younger, I was in denial and saying nothing was wrong with him when clearly it
Mm,
was. But
mhm,
I think that's something that just comes along with the initial, of knowing that, possibly your child is not like other people's, children,
mhm.
other individuals as far as development, mental development, and things like that. So I do understand that. But I guess my concern is so many people. I think there's more people in rural communities. I'm in Georgia, and in Georgia, I know there's a lot of rural communities. And just to think about all these individuals possibly not getting the education, the access to providers, even medical care is such a great concern because it could have a lot to do with the latter part of their life once they're in adulthood, like your sister is now, and my son is at this point. What has been the biggest surprise or adjustment as your sister aged into adulthood, you think?
I remember when my sister, she was having seizures, which gave her brain damage.
Wow.
And during that time, they didn't say you had disability or you had mental challenges or anything like that. Everything was retarded.
Wow.
So they had a place for children that was retarded. That was the word. if you had any kind of mental disability or physical, they would call it retarded. And it was over there by Ponce de Leon where they had the Crippled Children's Service was the name of the place. And that was back in the 70s. And I remember we would go up there and you would see kids with all kind of disabilities. And and then you would see this sign up there says retardation.
Wow.
And I'm sure it was everywhere because that's what they called it at that particular time.
Right.
However, that stigmatized someone. And so people feel sorry for you versus trying to help you. And it was just a number, you just go through the number. And what I look at that, and especially in the rural community, because we had to come from Barnesville, Georgia to Atlanta. It's nothing in between that you can get help during that
Gotcha.
time. And so now I look at Sandra, which is gonna be 60 this year, and
Wow.
I look at her challenges now. Her challenges now is because the help that she did not get when she was younger.
Mm.
So, knowing how to take care of her personal hygiene properly, knowing how to describe her pain. I can tell that she's in pain, but she'll say, "It don't hurt, but I know it hurt because I can tell the way she's walking." Because
Right.
she dragged her leg. I'm
Right.
taking her to the different doctors, and they was saying, well, it's just some arthritis, but she can't describe her arthritis. And
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing for me that she can't describe her pain,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And now if something that's hurt her real bad, she say, it's killing me. But she
Mm.
can't describe where it's hurting at, the pain level of anything because it's killing me. We really don't know what she's, saying as for from 1 to 10. So to me, that's the biggest challenge,
Right.
as
Right.
a caretaker for her now. So I try to make sure that I keep her up on all her medical appointments and everything. And one of the things too with Sandra, it was a challenge for me. Sandra was wearing a size 28 in clothing, and it was because she was eating what she wanted to eat and, no exercises. So I started her on a regimen of we changing the way you eat. We took the sugar, the sodas, the fried chicken and fried pork chop away and start, just looking at how we gonna eat differently. And now Sandra is wearing a size 12. Now it took about 7 years for that. And with that, she came off her high blood pressure medicine, her high cholesterol medicine, and her a metformin for because she was pre-diabetic.
Uh-huh.
And so communicating with her saying, "You better than this. You can do it." And now, I'm looking at that, but still I'm looking at her drag that leg. I know it's pain in that hip and lower back because I've taken her to a chiropractor. I've taken her to orthopedic surgery. She's gone through physical therapy. But because the pain was there, she learned how to walk that way. That's how she's walking now, bent over. So that's my biggest challenge now.
Let me ask you this, and since we're talking about medical, with Sandra, do you think the providers and I hear this a lot from other families, it's hard, number 1, to find a provider that treat special needs individuals. Even when Kyle became an adult, it was a shocker as to who would accept him, who wouldn't. And I guess the doctors are not as comfortable with it, but these individuals still need medical care. So how hard was it? I know your mother and Sandra eventually moved to Atlanta, in Atlanta area with you. How hard was it to find providers here in a larger city in the metro area compared to rural community?
Well, with me, when I brought them here, I gave them my doctor.
Okay.
And my doctor, I had been talking to my doctor about my mom and my sister all along. And so my doctor was very comfortable with treating her, and
Okay.
because she knew how to communicate with her.
Mhm.
But then my doctor passed, and so I had to find another doctor. And so I thank God for this doctor because she communicate very well
Mhm.
with Sandra as well, and she listened to Sandra, and but, because Sandra said her toes hurt, and she would get down and say, "Okay, show me where your toes hurting at," and she would show, well, and she does very well. But in the rural community, and I was very, very upset because doctors, to me, her doctor took advantage of the Medicaid and Medicare
Wow.
insurance because I believe he was just giving her sugar pills. That's what I believe. And I had my concern about it. My mama didn't want me to get in it, and I was like, somebody need to get in it. Because I'm more of an advocate, and
Right.
so
Absolutely.
and my mom would like, just stay out of it because this is the doctor we go to, but he didn't have a concern about her health because if he
Mhm.
had a concern about her health, he would have seen that how much weight she was gaining and to try to do something different with that. But instead, she going to the doctor every 3 months just to check her blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetic status, and that bothered me.
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
sure. I'm
Mhm.
sure. So basically, the rural community, you did see a difference with the medical care she got opposed to here. And I know you had a relationship already with your physician, but still, the fact that your physician did not mind seeing a special needs individual, being patient with her, really trying to understand what her issues are as far as pain and things like that. I totally understand that. I've heard it before about the rural community, but it's really hurtful when you hear from someone who actually experienced it because you just don't know how many individuals in those communities, rural communities, are suffering either in pain, not getting any relief, for a ailment or things like that. So it's really concerning. I do see even here in a larger city, like I said with Kyle, I do have seen where doctors don't even wanna see those type of individuals as well, and so that's hard for anybody dealing with a special needs individual because, they need care too, and I don't know why there's even an option where a doctor can say, I just don't wanna take the individual," or, "I prefer them to go to a particular doctor that specialize in that," and that's hard to find too. I realized that once, Kyle aged out of school, but, very interesting. I appreciate your honesty on that. Do you know if for you, did services change or drop off at any point after Sandra kinda aged out of school? Did your mom ever mention anything like that? Did she see a change once she became an adult?
Was Sharon, truthfully, my mama wasn't getting the different type of services. You
Gotcha.
you know, Sandra was not even on Medicare for a long period of time. She finally started getting disability. She didn't
Wow.
have no kind of services.
Wow.
And that's what have, I believe, that have caused a lot of the problems of where she is now, because if she had those particular services that is offered and was offered, then she would be farther along. The program that she went to, it was a program that just for kids that had disability, but it wasn't nothing to educate them. you know
Absolutely. Gotcha.
it was nothing to help the development.
Gotcha.
I and they may look at it a lot differently than I do, okay? Because what they looked at is progression, I looked at it's regression. I remember my my sister was going to the program, and they had them inserting sale papers in newspapers. They said they was teaching them how to work. And at the end of the week, I think they gave Sandra a quarter. And let me show you how smart she is. She quit. She didn't go back. She didn't want to go back.
Oh, wow.
And so, and I was talking to her. I said, "So why wouldn't you go back to your school? Because they call it the school." And she said, "Because I work hard, and I worked, and they only gave me a quarter." So that's the smartness
Very
of it,
smart.
right? She knew that
Absolutely.
if she worked, she shouldn't get a quarter. So that's why I'm saying that it just was not nothing to develop their skills, to develop their
Right.
Right. growth. Yeah, it's a place that they can come, that people can go to work, but what are you doing while they there? They need to do more than just dance. They need to do more than just eat. What I have learned, and I say this quite often, we all got disability. Every child have a disability. It may not be visual, but it does, I mean, exist. Everybody got a disability, some kind of way, but you got to learn how to work with a person with disability. Like since Sandra been here, I teaches her how to. Okay, first of all, how you got to handle your personal hygiene, you know, and how I teach her that, I tell her how pretty she's gonna look with it, you know.
Right. Right.
And I keep telling her, I said, "Don't you wanna look pretty?" Well, everybody wanna look pretty. All the girls wanna look pretty. All the men's wanna look handsome. Okay,
Right.
and I keep telling her that, well, she does the things that's now a lot better than what she was. She's not where she should be, but she's not where she used to be.
Wow. And, I want to commend you just for, I know that's your sister, but just putting all the efforts in reference to her medical care, her, even her personal hygiene, things like that, that is so important. I believe your mom is what, now in her 90s? And I know that, that's difficult for her. So having you as her sister is really a blessing, and I know she's a blessing to you as well. But just the input, I think people don't realize how much for the caregiver, how much it takes to, especially when they become adults, how much energy it takes to make sure that the individual, especially these individuals, on top of, like you said, hygiene. Is your leg really hurting in that area? Or is it somewhere else? Trying to figure out where the pain is. So because they can't communicate sometimes exact like we can, you know what I mean? So I think I commend you for just being there as her sister, and I know a lot of people, think that's listening to this, well, it's her sister. I've talked to families where there's no other family to that's willing to help and jump in and do those type of things. Like your mom has what I call pretty much aged out of being able to do what she used to do because of her age. She's, a senior herself, so she needs assistance, a caregiver as well at times, I'm sure. So just having that, you have your mom to care for and Sandra, I commend you, Dr. Jones, to just be there for them because everybody don't do that. And I know it's your love for your family. And I know you have the love of God, number one, but also for your family. And I just think it's phenomenal what you're doing on a daily basis, dealing with that. And I want you to know from me and so many others, you have a support system as well. And I hope this podcast leads to awareness where people like Sandra and my son Kyle and other disabled individuals will be able to get, additional help, services, even I mean, getting down to I heard you say she didn't get Medicare, which is shocking for years. I mean, you know, I am Kyle is in a larger city. So I think he got Medicare about 19 years old. I didn't even apply for it. It just the card came in the mail. It sounds like it was a lot different for Sandra. which that shouldn't be either. So, I just commend you. I just wanted to stop and say that for the care that you're giving your mom and Sandra, and how hard that's probably difficult it can be on a day-to-day basis. One quick question: how do you take care of yourself while caring for your sister?
Well, Sharon, I take my vacation break. I go out to dinner with my friends, but, because my mother's 94 now, I my vacation have to include her because I don't wanna leave, at her age, and I see the aging clearly now, and, something happens. With Sandra, I take her on vacation as well because, I have to, but I have a support help. My sons, they help me out a lot. From time to time, my oldest son will come and get him and take him over his house and do things with him, and I have a good friend base that, when I need to get out, I get out. And my husband, I have to give it to him. He help out as well,
That's awesome.
when I do really need to just get away by myself, he'll stay
Mhm.
here and take care of them for me. So I do have a great support system, and definite every caretaker definitely need a good support system, but they also need to take a break for themselves. And one of the things I do, I get massages too.
Awesome.
I have to break away, to get me some me time, and sometimes I just go and get me some me time. And then I got me a gazebo last year, and that's my she cave. I go out there and I'm just by myself and I get me some me time. So I do take care of me. I have to, because if I can't take care of me, then I can't take care of them. And I just want to thank you for even acknowledging that the different things that I do, and I appreciate it. But I have to do it because they are my family, and I know everyone don't get the same thing, in families, but it's just me and my sister, and if I don't do it, who gonna do it?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that
Mhm.
goes back to, what if you were not able to do it because, services that Sandra doesn't have, you know what I mean? It's almost like, her family has to do it, but everybody does not have the family support or even family to do it, and that's another issue that I thought about when you just said that. Um, you know, there are services that you have to have with the funding, which brings me to the waiver. Does Sandra have the waiver?
No,
The now
we didn't even know about a waiver.
Okay.
It wasn't introduced to my mother, and I didn't know about a waiver to many years. And being around some people that have special need kids, like yourself and another friend of mine's, Pam, I heard about the waiver, but it was just a lot that you don't know about. And when I was trying to apply for Sandra with different programs and everything, they was telling me I needed a waiver, and I was like, I don't have a waiver. And trying to apply for different programs, you get these big, thick books. And at my age, who want to fill out all that?
Right,
It's a lot.
right.
So
It is.
it's set up for people for failure, because
Mhm,
people don't wanna go through all that. They really need some advocates out there to help people with children with disability, or, loved ones, I could say, because like me, for example, she's not my child. However, I'm her caretaker now, but we need help in those areas, because you don't know what is available that can help. Like Sandra, people say, well, why don't you have it in a day program? And why don't you do this? And why don't you have that? Well, a lot of this is not available because you don't have the different accessibility, because you're not in that category.
mhm.
She's getting ready to be 60. A lot of things weren't offered that is offered now.
Now,
So what
mhm.
happened with those people that is in that particular area? And if it was offered, it wasn't offered to the rural community, or it wasn't in an area that where you had a predominantly people of color. And
Mhm.
so, and that's something that really need to be addressed. You're a Georgia citizen; it should be offered to all Georgia citizens,
Just citizens.
not just
Understood.
certain areas, with certain zip codes. So it is something when you start looking at the whole spectrum of what is really offered to people that have disability. And
Wow.
Sandra, with with even what I went through last year, when they wanted everybody that was on Medicaid to re-register. And when I called to re-register, they said that she was already registered. But I found out she wasn't. They cut her Medicaid.
Wow.
So it's so much out there. They have people that working in different offices that give you wrong information. So you have to you spend a lot of time trying to fight for your loved one to get something
Yes.
that can help out. And to me, that's too much because
Yeah.
I just wonder how can these parents work when they have to do all this here paperwork and advocating and all that. How can they work and get that done? Because I have not gone back in my job since COVID because I've had my mom and my sister here, and I'm constantly on the phone trying to get something done.
Right. And I hear what you're saying, the system, and I've heard that as well from other families. The system should be simpler. It should not be as difficult to get services, to get someone on the phone. I've heard people say they couldn't even get anyone on the phone to ask a question or to get assistance on how to complete some of the paperwork. And so I totally understand you on that, and I've heard it, like I said, heard it before, and I'm hoping and just praying that this podcast bring awareness to these type of issues where there's a simpler, more, more simpler process to get these individual services, um, education, things like that to help, like you said, the paperwork, I know because 'cause I've had to do it several times. It's a lot, and if you don't even know how to answer the questions, you might not even get approved, and you don't even understand what the question, understand the question and how to answer it. So it's difficult. There should be some place for people to be able to go to get assistance with paperwork and to get questions answered about services. So I totally understand where you're coming from with that. And I've heard it from other families, and I'm hoping and praying that we could get something done in that area because it's just the need because the special needs community is growing every day. So and there are more special needs individuals becoming adults every day. So we definitely something definitely needs to be done. In closing, I wanted to ask, what are your biggest concerns about the future for your sister?
My biggest concern now is watching her age,
Uh-huh.
and as I get older, how's it gonna look? Although my sons, are there. And if something happened to me, my oldest son would be the one that take her. We've already discussed that. His
Mhm.
wife is a nurse, which is really awesome because they do they input with her and everything, and and it's so funny. Even now, they used to call her just Sandra, but since she's been here, she have enforced that they must call her Aunt Sandra. So that doesn't change. So my biggest concern is, as I get older, as she get older, that I'm able to continue to take care of her in a proper way, that making sure that she is good in every area. I want to make sure that uh, she's more capable of self-help with herself, that she doesn't have to rely on people for everything. And that's my biggest concern. That's what I'm working on now, that she can begin to articulate a little bit better, especially with her
Mhm.
health. because when I see her drag that leg, it really concerns me.
Understood. Um, one other thing, is there anything you like other families or caregivers to know, especially those in rural areas? Um, maybe, resources that they need to apply for that Sandra possibly missed, like the waiver or things that you could kinda guide them as far as access. I know you're saying the access in the rural communities are limited, but is there anything, you'd like other families to know or even any encouragement you'd like to give any of the families in the rural communities?
I would say, and I don't even know whether this exists or not, and perhaps it does, but try to find groups. Now that you got social media, maybe you can find it on there that they have meetings and group chats that have special need loved ones that you can connect to, and I think you can get a lot of information from there that's out there. Because there's a lot in the rural community that you're not going to get because they don't care. They are not trying to have a concern about the people in the rural community, especially if the population is very low. They just they do the minimum of what they need to do. They don't have the concern to push to get you everything that's out there for you. So I suggest that go on these different chats that for got special need kids and or loved ones, and start searching out how you can communicate with them to find out what they're doing and what's out there that's needed.
Great. Dr. Jones, thank you so much for joining me today and for opening up about your journey as a caregiver. Your story really shines a light on the real challenges and deep love that come with caring for a sibling with special needs, especially in the rural communities where access and resources are limited. I hope this conversation sparks more awareness about the importance of expanding education, services, and support in all areas, not just the cities, but the towns and communities that are often overlooked. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. If today's episode resonated with you, please share it. And remember, whether you're in a big city or a small town, you deserve support and answers. You are not alone in this journey. Until next time, be encouraged and keep advocating for what you're loved and deserves. Thank you so much.